Hi everyone. In the immunology subject, we started off discussing about antigen antibody reactions. So we had discussed that we will have the five types of antigen antibody reactions, that is precipitation, agglutination, then we are having the neutralization, then complement fixation test, and then we have the labeled antibody assays. In which in the previous part we had started off discussing about the precipitation. And here in this part we will discuss about the immunoelectrophoresis and agglutination. Immunoelectrophoresis is a type of precipitation reaction only. So we will finish the precipitation types with this immunoelectrophoresis. Okay, so let's begin the immunoelectrophoresis. This technique was devised by Graber and the Williams. Okay, so who was the one who devised this technique means Graber and the Williams. And this immunoelectrophoresis technique is a combination of two techniques, that is immunodiffusion. What is meant by immunodiffusion? That is gel diffusion and electrophoresis. That means you are combining the gel diffusion with the electrophoresis, then it becomes the immunodiffusion or immunoelectrophoresis. So this immunodiffusion is a type of precipitation, and then we have a simple precipitation, and then we are going to have the third type is immuno. So here we are going to use a combination of gel diffusion along with the electrophoresis. So we simply call it as immunoelectrophoresis. And we are having a great advantage of having this technique of because of having the greater resolution by its ability to separate the components of complex mixtures, that is complex antigen mixtures. Even we can resolve as many as 39 individual antigens in a mixture. That means we can separate the 39 individual antigens from a mixture. And this technique is used to analyze the serum proteins and as well as the immunoglobulins. Okay, so let's see the process of this one, how it is going to perform. So the test is going to be mainly performed in two stages. How many stages? Two stages. In the first stage, what we are going to see, just see the diagram, then you will know it. So here, this is a slide. Okay, agar gel is taken on a slide. So we are going to pour the agar gel on a slide, and we are making a well, that is a cut. And this cut or a well is filled with an antigen mixture such as human serum. Now this is going to have the supply of electric current. So by how you are not keeping directly the electric current, we are supposed to keep this plate containing the antigen in the electrophoresis chamber and supply the electric current. So what happens? As a result, you can see the separation of these antigens. Have you seen here the small dots from this pink well? It has distributed its antigens but separated according to the based on their electric charges. So the positively charged proteins move to the negative electrode and negatively charged proteins move to the positive electrode. So that's how we have separated the antigens from this antigenic mixture. Now in the second stage, so this is all the first stage that we perform. That means we have taken a slide on which the agar gel was placed and a well is made, and in that well we are going to have the placement of a human serum containing the antigenic mixture, and now this slide was kept in an what we call it as electrophoresis chamber, and now the electric current was passed. Now this electric current, with the help of electric current, the antigens will move depending upon the charges. The positive charges will move to the negative electrode, and the negative charged proteins will move to the positive electrode. So this is all the first stage. Now what is happening in the second stage? So here in the second stage, what we are supposed to do is we have to make a trough. That means a long cut parallel to this well. Okay, so where the electrophoretic separation and filled with appropriate antibody. And now this is going to be incubated. We are not doing any electrophoresis here again, just we are incubating. Now what happens during the incubation? The antibodies will try to diffuse. Okay, and obviously the antigens are there which are getting separated. And now the antigens and the antibodies diffuse into the gel and form a complex pattern of arc shape. So as they diffuse where they meet, they are going to form a particular type of the shape called as arc. And these arcs are nothing but the precipitated or precipitation bands that can be better visualized by giving some sort of stains. So this is all about the immunoelectrophoresis. Very simple. We are doing it in the two stages. In the first stage, just we are taking a slide, putting a well containing the antigen solution, then electrophoresis was done, and the separation of the antigens is going to occur from the mixture, and then we are making a trough in which antibody was placed, and then if the antibody diffuses and the antigen diffuses, both are going to form a sort of a precipitation bands in the form of arc, which it can be clearly seen by giving some sort of a stain. So this is all about the immunoelectrophoresis, and this can be done in two stages, or sorry, in two types. So one is going to be called as rocket electrophoresis, and then the second one is called as counter immunoelectrophoresis. We'll have the two types of electrophoresis. One is a rocket electrophoresis, and then second one is a counter immunoelectrophoresis. So coming to the first one, rocket electrophoresis, what is happening? See here. So it's looking like a rocket. That's why the name was maybe named as rocket electrophoresis. Here, the antigen is electrophosed through a agar gel containing antibody. So here you are placing your antigen, and this agar is already contains the antibody. Now, as you place the antigen and electrophoresis was done, you are going to see the movement of this antigen and antibody precipitation in the form of a rocket. So that's why this is going to be of what we call it as rocket electrophoresis. And this length of this rocket electrophoresis shape or precipitation depends upon the concentration of the antigen. So more the antigen, more you get the precipitation rocket shaped one. Less the antigen, you are going to have the less one. Okay, then moving to the counter immunoelectrophoresis, that is CIE, which is going to be a very important diagnostic in many of the viral diseases. So here, this counter immunoelectrophoresis mainly relies on the movement of both antigen have to move as well as the antibody have to move. Okay, but they are going to be in the opposite directions. You can see here. So the antigen carrying the negative charge migrates towards the positive pole, and the antibody carrying the positive charge migrates towards the negative pole. So that's how wherever they are going to move, there you are going to have the precipitation line. So this antigen and the homologous antibody are placed in the separate wells, and though which current passes, line of precipitation appears at the point where the two meet in about 30 to 60 minutes. And this test is faster and more sensitive than double diffusion, that is our Ochterlony double diffusion technique. So that's the reason why this CIE, that is counter immunoelectrophoresis, is going to be useful in the detection of viral diseases like hepatitis B antigens and antibodies, even in some sort of DNA antibodies in SLE. Okay, and other diseases, etc. So this is all about the precipitations that we have discussed. So we had the different types of precipitations, that is gel diffusion we have discussed, isn't it? And then first of all we discussed about the simple precipitation test where we had the cone test, and then we are going to have some sort of a slide test, that is VDRL test. Then we had gone with the gel diffusion. We have discussed the single diffusion, double diffusion, all the things, Ochterlony double diffusion. And in this, we have discussed about the immunoelectrophoresis. With this, we finished off our precipitation type of antigen-antibody reaction. Then we are moving to the next type is agglutination. What is the next one is agglutination. Agglutination is an antigen-antibody reaction in which an antibody combines with a particulate antigen in presence of electrolytes at optimal pH and temperature. resulting in visual clumping of the particles is going to be called as agglutination. Okay, so here the particles are going to be of like bacteria, erythrocytes, synthetic latex particles coated with antigen antibody can be used to detect either the soluble antibodies or the antigen. The difference between the precipitation and the agglutination is the soluble antigens here, whereas the insoluble antigens there. Okay, so better agglutination reaction takes place with IgM antibody rather than the IgG antibody. So we can see the clumping of red blood cells with IgM anti-red cell antibodies. So this is all about the introduction of agglutination. So you have to remember here an antibody combines with a particulate antigen in presence of electrolytes, optimal pH, temperature, and resulting in visible clumping of the particles. Okay, that's the thing that you have to remember. Then coming to the principles of agglutination, obviously the same principle. The reaction is specific, that an antigen combines with its homologous antibody and vice versa. And during interactions, the whole molecule, not in fragments, react with each other. Denaturation of either antigen or antibody does not occur during the reaction. Now, the antigen antibody combinations occurs at the surface level. That is also very important, and the combination is firm but it cannot be reversible. Okay, though it is firm, it can be reversible. Sorry, the combination is firm. That means the binding between the antigen and the antibody is very strong, but we can make it a reversible. So both antigen and antibodies participate in the formation of agglutinates, okay, or precipitates. There we have to, in the precipitation we have to write this one. Here we have to write it as agglutinates. Now the antigen antibodies combine in varying proportions. Now, coming to the types of agglutinations, we are going to have the two types. One is slide test, another one is the tubes. The first one is going to be the slide or tile tube agglutination. Sorry, slide and tile. That means you are going to take a uh, larger than slide, that is going to be called as a tile. Okay, so this slide or tile agglutination test is widely used method to detect the unknown antigens, that is mainly our blood group, okay, and even the bacteria. So for this what we have to do is we have to take a fine suspension of antigen is made in saline on a slide, and a small drop of antisera is added and it is rocked. That means you have to mix, tilt it such that it is going to evenly mix both the antigen and antibody, and for a minute you are going to see some sort of a clumps or form. So that is nothing but the agglutination. So this slide and tile agglutination test is a rapid test and the result is obtained in minutes or even seconds also. But it is not as sensitive as tube or microtitration techniques. Okay, so this type of agglutination test, that is slide test, is again classified into two types. How many types? Two types. The first one is active agglutination slide test. In this, a direct agglutination of what we call it as antigen with its corresponding antibody occur, and you are going to have the examples of it is slide agglutination of salmonella, that is our Vidal test, then Shigella or Vibrio cholera using the specific antibodies. So here the uses mainly identification of the bacteria, and for carbohydrate fermenting colonies subcultured on carbohydrating free medium is used. So thus sucrose fermenting Vibrio cholera requires subculturing into nutrient agar from TCBS before that is performing this test. That is the first type, active agglutination slide test. Then coming to the passive, that is immediately you are going to have the response active. Then passive. So these are tests in which the specific antibody or known antigen is coated to certain what we call it as inert carrier particles. So here you can see. So they are first coated with certain inert coating particles, and then it is going to be used for the test. So these passive tests which specific antibody or known antigen, either antibody or the antigen, or attached with certain inert coating particles, which are going to have the converted into the agglutination reaction. The particles or cells become agglutinated when known antigen and antibody reacts with its corresponding antigen or antibody. So what are the different types of the carriers that you are going to use to coat? Those are lattice particles, bentonite, carbon particles, and stabilized staphylococcal cells. So the latex particles, these latex particles are a kind of polystyrene particles and coated with either known antigen or antibody. Then antigen coated latex particles are used in a test called as ASO slide. So here you can see. Okay, so this is what. So this is a Staphylococcus aureus, and this is antigen coated antibody is going to be there. So here the carbon particles used in rapid plasma reaction. Okay, that is a that test is mainly used for syphilis, where the carbon particles are coated with the cardiolipin antigens. So these are all the certain tests used to identify, and as it is going to have some sort of coated one, this is going to be called as passive agglutination slide test. And the test is based on the presence of protein gain. So here I am telling an example of it. Stabilized staphylococcal antigen. Here, if you observe, the test is based on the presence of a protein called as protein A on the outer surface of this Staphylococcus aureus. And majority of them are going to produce, that means majority of the Staphylococcus aureus strains are able to produce this protein A. And this is going to be very specific for the antibody. Okay, and it reminds it is a simple slide test first devised by Novod in the year 1973. And here the test and control are reacted with a drop of boiled suspension of suspected organism, and a positive reaction is recorded when agglutination occurs with the test reagent but not with the control reagent. And now this is going to be very useful in identification of bacteria and as well as soluble extracellular bacterial antigens. Commercially, this there are going to be of a variety of tests kits are being available nowadays for the detection of some of the Haemophilus influenza type B, meningococcal, pneumococcal, then cryptococcal, extracellular antigens in CSF. Okay, so that's how we can identify the several types of diseases or infections or the antigens present in us. Okay, so this is all about the first type of, that is slide test. Then coming to the tube agglutination, so these are all the things that I told you. Okay, so commercially available in identifying this. Next, coming the tube agglutination. So here the agglutination occurs in a large volume of a fluid in tube test in an environment that can be performed under more fully controlled condition. Okay, tube agglutination tests are more sensitive than slide tests. So if you want to know the ratio or the quantity, then we are supposed to do this tube agglutination rather than the slide test, which is not that much sensitive as the tube agglutination is. So here duration or time of agglutination temperature must be correct, and a control tube containing only antigen suspension must be included along with the test for checking the auto agglutination of the reagent. So this is a standard quantitative procedure for determination of antibody titer, and this is going to be majorly employed for diagnosing of typhoid by Vidal test, paratyphoid, brucellosis and typhus fever. So how do you perform this? The serum is going to be diluted in the saline, okay, serially, and by double dilution in series of test tubes, and an equal volume of standard antigen suspension is added to all the test tubes, and where the high at which, that means at the highest dilution, if you are going to have the agglutination, that is going to be recorded as antibody titer. So if you go through the reports of Vidal test, you may have 1 is to 80, 1 is to 160, 1 is to 20, like this. So we are going to take, if the titration is at 1 is to 180 or 1 is to 160, that is going to be considered as a positive for what we call it as Vidal test. Okay, so that's how you are going to take. So you are going to dilute the antibody, that is a serum, in a saline, and then equal ratios of antigen was added to all the test tubes, and find out which test tube is going to have the highest dilution serum, where you can find the agglutination, which is recorded as antibody titer. Now the uses of agglutination, as I told you, this identification of unknown culture can be done by this one. Then blood grouping and cross matching can be done by using this agglutination reaction. Then serological diagnosis of enteric fevers like Vidal test, typhus fever like Wiley flakes reactions, and brucellosis and infections mononucleosis. And even the Paul Burnett test is nothing but this one, which is used to identify. And even the Streptococcus mg agglutination test for diagnosis of primary atypical pneumococci or pneumonia can be done by using this agglutination test. So this is all about the agglutination. So we are going to have the two types of agglutination. One is the slide and another one is the tube. So slide, we had seen that we had the two types. One is the passive active agglutination slide test. Then we had seen the passive agglutination slide test or tile test. And then coming to the tube agglutination test, we had seen this is very useful rather than the slide in finding out the quantitative or estimation of the antibody titer also. Okay, so coming to the uses of overall agglutination, we can use for identification of unknown cultures, blood grouping and cross matching, serological diagnosis, and the streptococcus, that is in the finding out or diagnosing of primary atypical pneumonia also. So this is all about the precipitation. So we will discuss the neutralization and complement fixation test in the coming part, that is next part. Thank you.